Hello there, Ion Franchising, Lance Graulich. I'm your host, and today,
Up next,
let's start off with a secret for the audience.
Why Senior Care Authority and why is it different? And what's exciting about it? I'm going to go ahead and answer
Glad
that.
you asked. Give me that answer. You're paying that fee to get that training, get that intellectual property, so you're not waiting 5 years to turn a profit.
That's right.
You know? Another great special guest, a franchisor, Mark Molnar. He's the president and COO of Senior Care Authority. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Lance. Looking forward to this.
I am as well. Let's start off with a secret for the audience. Give me the top 3 secrets to success being a franchise owner.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's secrets are better left not being too secret. So we'll answer that with a couple quick thoughts. First thing, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of franchisors would tell you this. The first thing is we do have a system in place, and this system does work. Frank Sampson started this company back in 2009, started franchising it in 2014. We're not new at this. I just started this role at the beginning of this year, so I'm new to this, but I've been doing this for 6 years. And so I started back in 2019, and following the system and the processes that the company has put in place is the number one way you're going to be successful at this business. The second one is building strong relationships. The type of company that we have, we're not selling widgets. We don't have storefronts. This is the type of business that is really built from the knowledge that you build as part of our system and your ability to translate that to help families and seniors in times of crisis. So it's all about building those relationships. And I think the third thing is having realistic expectations for the ramp time of your business.
Yes.
Most franchisees will tell you whatever they think is realistic and what to expect. And I find sometimes people come in and they say, yeah, but I'm a little better than that. They say it's going to be 6 months, but I'm pretty good. I can probably do that in 3. I will tell you, I think I'm pretty good, and I kind of thought maybe I'd do a little better than the ramp up. I didn't do any better than the ramp up. I was right on target with the ramp up, and as I grew my business, it continued to ramp as time grew. So those are I would say the 3 things I would highlight.
Awesome. I love it. So senior care is a broad category. Talk about Senior Care Authority. Exactly what is Senior Care Authority for those that don't know?
Yep. So we are a franchise model. We've got 100 locations or about 80 owners, 100 territories around the country. And what we do is we work with seniors and families, helping them find solutions to their aging loved ones. So it could be, and this is probably the bulk of our business, is helping folks find the right assisted living, memory care units, independent living communities that are right for them, because there are a lot of them. There's over 200 of them in my market alone. All of them have different price points. All of them have different care levels. All of them have different quality. And we have folks. We are boots on the ground in these communities every day, getting to know what their offerings are, and helping families get matched up with the right communities. That's the bulk of what we do, but people call us looking for solutions to their aging loved ones' problems, and it's not always assisted living. Sometimes it's finding solutions for them to stay at home. Sometimes it's finding solutions for them to find nursing homes or things that aren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, and we can help with that too, be it through a referral or through a direct consulting that we will do.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Mark, there's such a big industry in senior care and home care, and like you said, nursing homes, assisted living facilities. There are a lot of franchises dedicated to just in-home care, and you're literally building an agency with caregivers.
That's right.
We're talking strictly placement, correct?
Not strictly placement, but primarily placement, because that's what differentiates us a little bit from some of the straight placement companies, because that is the bulk of our business. But we do we call it elder care consulting. So some of those ancillary functions we will also help with. But the big difference, certainly sometimes folks think that we're going to be caregivers. That is definitely not what we do. And I think that's one of the big probably one of the questions you may be asking is you know, why Senior Care Authority and why is it different? And what's exciting about it? I'm going to go ahead and answer
Glad
that.
you asked. Give me that answer.
So much like you highlighted in the senior care market, it's enormous. The market is enormous and it's growing rapidly. Not just you've seen the charts. I don't need to highlight any numbers to you, but graying of America, everybody turning 65, more people turning 65 every day. What's really important to us is really more the folks maybe 10 years down the line who are maybe turning 75, because those are the folks who really need, the types of services that we provide. It can, obviously it could start at 65, but certainly the older the population gets, the more in our wheelhouse they get. So it's really a growing market, and the stuff that we do is really unique, and it's highly underpenetrated. The market is highly underpenetrated. So you've got a huge market growing rapidly, and the service we do within that market is really small. The service penetration is really small. So there's an opportunity for us to grow significantly through that front. You mentioned home care companies, and what we offer as a franchisor or as a franchisee, if you buy into our model, is we also generally don't really need employees, because what we do is really more consultative. So we're not providing that in-home care. We're not looking for 40 or 80 caregivers that we have to manage and figure out logistics and making sure they're showing up on time and all that kind of stuff. That's not our problems, so to speak. We've got other problems, but that's not that is definitely one of the big challenges within senior care is caregiving, and we're able to provide our services without worrying about that. And obviously the other side is going to be we already talked a little bit about the training and the technology and the things that we bring to the table. Those are all reasons that I think differentiate what we do.
So let's kind of go right into that next question. You dove into another one that you already answered, but there are a lot of people listening and watching this on video on YouTube and thinking, can't I just do this myself? Why do I need a franchise? What does the franchise bring to the table when I can do this on my own?
Yeah. So I'm probably a perfect person to answer that question. And reason being, we started a business, as I said, about 6 years ago. And
I heard you were a finance guy. So how the heck did this all happen?
I was a finance guy. So I will weave that in. So this may be a little longer answer, but I'll weave that in to the whole story. So I started the business, actually, my wife and I, Mary, started the business together about 6 years ago. And much like many of our franchisees, we had a personal story around how we got involved in this whole thing. So you mentioned I was a finance guy. I spent about 15 years in investment banking and on Wall Street, equity research, sales, trading. I was the CFO of a company before I started this, a CFO of a company here in Cleveland. And during that time, while I was the CFO here in Cleveland, my dad, living in the house that I grew up in, he fell and broke his hip, and ambulance came, took him to the hospital. 3 days later, Medicare cuts him, pushes him to the skilled nursing community. Medicare covers X amount of days in skilled nursing, and the next thing I know, my mom is calling me and saying, "Hey, they said your dad has to be out of here by Friday. That he can't come home. What do you think of this place?" And I'm sitting here in Cleveland. I've got a wife and 3 kids, and they're all kind of teenage sports. And I'm a CFO of a company, crazy busy, and I'm going to drop everything because that's my dad, right?
Yeah.
So, and my mom's asking me this, and I'm like, I'm a relatively smart guy, but I don't know anything about senior living in Columbus, Ohio, right? So what are they asking you for? What are they asking me for? Isn't that what they do? And the answer is that's not really what they do. When I say they, I mean the nursing homes. They say, your time is up. Here's a list of places. Tell us where you want to go.
You learned a great referral source though on that day.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So I spent the better part of a week driving around Columbus, Ohio, visiting assisted living communities and nursing homes and trying to figure out all this stuff that I know now, like the back of my hand. I didn't know any of it because I didn't know what I was getting into. So that's how I got into it. And
you became a franchisee.
Yes.
So how did you do that with your full-time gig? Tell me about that transition.
I was fortunate. We had an opportunity. We had an opportunity about 2 years after my dad had passed away. My dad did unfortunately pass away. Again, we didn't get a great place. it was a little bit of a mess, and he ended up passing away at home. But nonetheless, a couple years after that happened, we sold our company, and I was kind of looking for that next thing. What's the next gig I want to get into? Had no idea that this was even an industry or a business, to be honest. My wife's an occupational therapist, and so she's worked with seniors in their homes for a long time. And she saw this as a need, but we didn't know companies like this existed because this is not it's not a well marketed industry in general. So we had no idea that this industry existed. My wife was talking about how people are asking her for recommendations on communities, and she was doing it. And she's like, "Gosh, there's got to be a business here." My wife's got a great business mind, even though she's mostly been kind of healthcare related, but she knows that I kind of like this kind of stuff. So I started looking into it and thinking, gosh, there really is. There's clearly a need. Personally, I saw this as a need, and Mary saw it in her in her work as a day-to-day occupational therapist working in folks' homes, and so between the two of us, we started thinking, how do we set up a business like this? And so as I started to do my research, I found out that there are a handful, not a lot, but there's a handful of companies that do this on a franchise national level, and that's how we got hooked up with Senior Care Authority. And so I'm so glad that we did, because there was no really reason to reinvent the wheel, right? They had the business model in place, they had the technology in place, they had the contracts, they had the national contract. I was able to kind of step right in and start running this business without doing what I was doing, which would have taken a year or more to kind of figure out what it's all about. So and had you asked me prior to starting this business if I was likely to ever own a franchise, I probably would have said no. And now I would say, particularly in this particular field, in this particular industry, I would absolutely say yes. Because everything's local, all of the value that we have is the knowledge that we have at the local level, and you can't get that at a call center sitting thousands of miles away.
Yeah, I do tell people, and you mentioned this, I do tell people, if you get into a great franchise, what you're really paying for when you pay that franchise fee, I call it the mastermind fee. When somebody pays Tony Robbins a lot of money to join a mastermind, to rub elbows with people that know more than you, franchising, you're joining this mastermind where you want to get to the level of, like the gentleman before we hit record, found out my college roommate's a top franchisee at Senior Care Authority.
Absolutely.
We can't mention his name yet. He doesn't know we're talking about him. But, you're paying that fee to get that training, get that intellectual property. So you're not waiting 5 years to turn a profit.
That's right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's the accelerated growth model that you're paying to jump the line, essentially, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No doubt about it. And if you don't pay that, the failure rate's going to be a lot higher because you've got that much longer of a runway to get to it. So
yeah. Talk about becoming a franchisee and what that training looks like. Actually, let's back up a step. Talk about the process. Do you guys have an in-person discovery day? How are you doing that, or is it
process
just
from a franchisor standpoint? Yep. Yeah. So it starts with depending on where the person's coming in from, but usually it starts with an initial call with one of our frontline, basically one of our sales folks, who will do an initial intake, talk about our franchise at a very high level, get a little bit of information from the potential franchisee to make sure that they're the right fit, because this isn't a perfect fit for everyone.
And who is the right fit? Or is it better to say who is the wrong fit? Are you looking, because look, a finance guy normally is not necessarily going to be the right fit.
Yeah.
You might be a little different, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you though, interestingly, I wouldn't say that's the case, because the reality is a lot of, not 100% of, but a lot of the folks that are on in our network, our franchisees, many of them, myself obviously included, because I just talked about it, have personal experience with this, with their families, and they see the hole in the system.
Yes.
and they see the need for it. And I don't care if you're the CFO of a company, or you're an auto worker, or you're a policeman, or whatever your job is. Everybody has either parents or older adults that they have or are worried about dealing with and figuring out how to care for them. And no matter what your background is, if you've got the empathy for that type of work, and you recognize the market opportunity because it's enormous, and you've got the drive and the ability to network and get your your name and our name into the marketplace, you can be successful in this.
Yeah. So you have, one of my favorite questions is, if you're going to think of your top 5 or 10 best franchisees making the most money, happy, et cetera, where did they come from? What exactly did they do prior? And the answer typically in any franchise, it's kind of all over the place.
It really is.
So, which most people listening to this is like, really? And the answer is a desire to do the job and do the work and not work for somebody for the rest of your life
100%.
is a pretty big motivator, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I would say exactly what you just said. We don't have, all the nurses that come into our industry are great. All the salespeople are going to be great. That's just not how this particular industry works.
Yeah.
But we have all of those, right? We've got therapists like my wife. We've got finance guys like me. We've got shoe salesmen. We've got guys that, we have people who kind of like me have kind of came out of the investment markets.
Wait, Al Bundy's a franchisee?
Literally, one of our tops. Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, working as a franchise consultant broker myself, when I talk to people that don't have that familiarity, unfortunately, both my parents passed. Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with, home care, assisted living, et cetera, and what we're talking about. And you became familiar, which is why you got into this business.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of people, fortunately, that don't know anything about it, and when they hear it, working with families in crisis and all of this, talk about some of those challenges when you're in this business.
Yeah. And you do have to deal with that. I mean, if anybody wants to get into senior care authority and they don't think that they're going to be dealing with challenging situations and working in emotional situations, this would not be the industry for them for sure.
Yeah.
But having said that, we have a great training program that helps folks understand these types of issues because we've dealt with it. Frank's dealt with it since 2009. We've got 100 franchisees that have been dealing with this, since they've started their franchises, and we've got a great corporate team that helps train people how to deal with difficult situations. They're also accessible, and I would say if not every week, certainly, if not every day, certainly a couple times a week, our home office is fielding calls from folks, from franchisees, with specific situations, with difficult situations with families and specific needs that they're having a challenge finding the right solutions to. And our corporate team is certainly there. The other part of owning a franchise that's great is, not only do we have the corporate office, but you've got 80 other franchise owners that are doing this. And we've got a great group of franchisees that are, more than happy to help out other franchisees with things like that because, we're all in this together trying to, and we're not competing, right? We got our own markets. We're trying to help each other out. So if we can
back to that mastermind philosophy.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. So when it comes to marketing, somebody gets out of training and you start some sort of grand opening campaign, if you will. What is the secret side? There we go. We're giving away secrets again. I'll have to kill you after this episode. Or you'll have to kill me. I don't know. So how does that work?
Yep. So there's a couple different components to that marketing efforts, I would say, and we certainly have a strong online presence, and we'll get some of our prospects will come through our portals and our networking online, but the vast majority of our business is really at the local level, getting clients that from referral sources that are in market that recognize a need and that now have learned about us through our sales and marketing efforts. So a lot of it is you've got to be a strong networker. You've got to be able to get out there and get your name into the field. But that field could be really wide because, as I just said earlier, everybody is in need of this service in some point in their life, typically. And one of the keys, which I think we talked a little about, I don't know if I highlighted it, but really time management, because I could go to the grocery store right now and I could walk the aisles, and I promise you I could find somebody that could probably use my services.
Right.
That would not be a particularly good use of my time because I might have to walk a lot of aisles to find that, but they're there. I promise you they're there, or they will be at some point. Better use of time is to use that time, networking with elder law attorneys who may have clients that they're working with on estate planning that, guess what, they need my services. Or working with, you mentioned, skilled nursing homes, or skilled nursing communities where they're maybe short-term rehab and then they're going to be discharging, much like my dad. And rather than handing them a list and saying, go figure it out and tell us where you want to go, they can say, call this guy because, he knows all the communities inside and out, and he can direct you where to go. So everybody has different niches and different strengths. And some people come into this industry, they may have a lot of, I happen to have, some relationships in financial services and in again, with the attorney fields. So I was able to kind of get in and leverage the relationships I had. They weren't necessarily senior care, but they were touching it in some capacity. And so that's what our franchisees have to do is leverage their own network that they already have, and then also build upon that in the areas that we would focus them.
Yeah. You mentioned the ramp-up period. It seems like everyone eventually figures out when they go to buy a business that a franchise could be a great choice for them. But the ramp-up period seems daunting. Mm-hmm. I invest in a franchise. Mm-hmm. I start, leave my job that most people probably didn't like to begin with, which is why they're looking for a business. Mm-hmm. And obviously you have an opportunity to speak to existing franchisees in the process before you decide to come in. And you're asking questions like, when did you start making money? Mm-hmm. How long did it take? All of those good things. But what is the magic in your ramp-up period to get people, up and out of training and launched as quickly as possible?
Yeah, and again, I think that gets down to the to the modules and the training that we do. So so I'll talk a little bit to that because
and I'm especially asking because you've done it before.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the money if we're going to talk about a little bit of the item 19, perhaps.
Sure. Got that sitting right here.
Perfect.
Happy to talk about that. And
show me the money.
This is kind of my first out of the gate here. So I said I'm a little bit early on this. I know I'm sticking to that. I'm not going to be making projections for you for the most part.
No worries.
So on the training side, so we start out with our folks first go through. It's actually not Senior Care Authority training, but it's certified. It's called the CSA, and so it basically helps folks. It can be anywhere from 2 to 3 week training, depending on how long it takes our franchisees to get through it. It could be as long as a month, but it's an in-depth training about this whole industry and about how, again, a lot of the stuff that we talked about, and then you've got to take a test at the end that shows that you did all this work, and you at the very least know the basics of the industry and how it works inside and out. And how, again, a lot of the stuff we talked about, some of the dealing with families, understanding the communities, and understanding how the industry works. So you'll do that to start with. Then we've got our own Senior Care Authority modules that you'll go through online. And while you're going through those, you're also going to be getting coaching training through our corporate team, both our CEO, Frank Sampson, who started the company, as well as Marcy Baskin, who's head of our training program. They're going to be very hands-on as you walk through these modules. We'll also be having our tech team and our M&T, our marketing team, getting you set up with websites, getting our SEO and social media platforms set up for you, getting all that kind of stuff all the basic stuff in place for you. And then once you get through that, then we actually come out and do an on-site visit with you. So call it 2 to 3 months into this training process while you're doing some online stuff, the CSA, all the coaching sessions. We then come out and do an on-site visit with you where we're going to go out and we're going to visit a bunch of the senior living communities in your community that you set up the meetings. We come out and we basically walk you through, the types of things that you should be asking, the things you should be looking for when you're walking around the communities, all that kind of stuff. And we help you help you through that process. We set up we've got other mentors. We'll hook you up with a mentor within our network, so you've got somebody to work with and call on. So it's pretty comprehensive. And by the time that kind of 3-month period hits, now you should be ready to start getting out and telling the story.
Yeah, I'm counting, like I lost count. Probably like 30 people assigned to you. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we've got a great team of folks. So both internal and external training when you include the CSA as part of that.
Pardon me. Talk about the investment. This is a light investment considering this isn't buying a McDonald's.
Nope.
So talk a little bit about the investment, and then let's also talk about that ROI. Now, for those listening, a franchise disclosure document is always presented to you when you're investigating any franchises. And item 19 of the 23 items is the earnings claim, which we're going to discuss a little bit. But go ahead with that a little bit.
Yeah. So our all-in investment, we call it around $100,000, but that's really probably on the very high end.
Including working capital and the franchise.
Including working capital, and that includes, hey, you got to buy a computer. Hey, you got to pay for a phone. You've got to pay for paper supply. We pretty much work everything into that.
And everybody's really home based for the most part, unless you grow a big team and you decide you want an office.
That's right. Yeah, you don't have to have an office. For me, I did not have an office for about a year and a half. It drives me crazy to not have an office, to be honest. That's just me. So
I have two in my house.
I got an office. I'm one of the few. Yeah. Most people are, and my wife still works at the kitchen table. It's better for our marriage as well to not be sitting in the same office. So yeah, that kind of all-in number is probably on the high end. When you look at, again, I'm going to reference item 19. When you look at folks, this is from our most recent one. We haven't filed the one that'll be coming up in April. But anybody, the average for 37 to 48 months was $314,000 in gross income, and that's not your net number, but that's the gross number that we would that we have on average for folks in that range. And it certainly
you don't have much in the expense department in this business.
What's that? They're really, the expenses are your time. Your expenses are your time. There's drive time. There's marketing materials. There's buying lunches for people and things like that. Certainly, there is costs associated with we've got M&T expenses and things like that, like everyone would have, for your franchise. And again, you're buying tablecloths and that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, you're really not you're not really expending a lot of money on anything like inventory or hard assets.
Of course, the most successful franchise owners in this brand might have somewhat of a team supporting them for their big revenue numbers. But there's still some people doing solo entrepreneurship type work.
Lots. I would say more solo entrepreneurs, certainly, without a doubt, more solo entrepreneurs than there are teams. That's what I really like about the business, because if you say, describe a successful business for me, success to a degree depends on who the person is and what they want to do, and how they want to run their business. We talked about our friend up in New York, and he's a solopreneur. He's doing really, really well. He's really, really happy with, I think with his business. And I don't think he wants to deal with employees, and he just wants to do his thing, and he does a great job of it, and that's okay. And I think I would call him a very successful franchisor. In my market, I've got a team
franchisee.
A franchisee, yeah, that's right.
I know what you meant.
In my market, I've got a team of 8 or 9 folks that I've got because we've chosen to scale this business out. So we've chosen, this is how we would like to, to run our business. But that's what I like about Senior Care Authority in a sense is you get to kind of choose your own path to success and how you would like to. How you'd like to form your success. You don't have to be a team, and you don't have to be a solopreneur. Most people are going to start out as solo because whenever I started out, I had to learn the business. I would not suggest somebody comes in and thinks they're going to build a team out in the first month because it's not going to be successful because you've got to learn the business and understand how it works. But once you get to a point where you're getting crazy busy, and you got to make the decision, do I want to just be crazy busy or scale it back a little, or do I want to expand it? That's when you're probably going to have to start to think about adding team members to grow the business.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? I mean, you're new in the position. You're going to just continue to grow this thing across the country, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we talk about under penetration of the markets at the local level, and obviously every market is different in terms of where that penetration might be. But I think nationally, it's pretty under penetrated as well. I mean, I mentioned we've got 100 locations and roughly 80-ish owners, and that sounds kind of like a lot, but when you look at a map, I mean. That's not a lot. There's a lot of room
for 500 owners.
No, yeah, there's a lot of room. There's a lot of white space in the country for us to grow in. And,
I did want to ask you about the territories. So a percentage of owners own more than one territory.
Yeah, that's right.
And how does that work with the territories? I mean, what if an owner in Florida gets a call from someone in Massachusetts that they know?
Yeah,
they just hand it off to someone else, or are they able to?
So that's part of the value. That's part of the value of what we do, and part of the value of being part of a franchise for sure. So I know everything. Me and my team know everything about the Northeast Ohio market, but in this business, inevitably, people are going to call us because they know what we do, but their mom lives in St. Louis. Right, and I don't know anything about the St. Louis market, not at a local level. I can have a high level conversation about how assisted livings work versus nursing homes and the types of. I can have those kind of high level conversations, but I have no idea if community A is great or if it's really a problem, or is community B offer these kinds of services that they might. I don't know any of that. But I got a gal who's great in St. Louis that I can refer you to, and she can take care of you and help you in that specific market. And that's the value of having this franchise network. We can help. I'd like to have more than 100, so we can help across every single market and every single location in the U.S. I can't tell you I can do that now, but most of the major markets we've got covered. We've got a couple holes that I really want to fill, but we can help in a lot of areas across the country. Yeah. And that works as a business owner here too, because I get folks from Florida who, their mom or their dad wants to move back home to an assisted living to be by their kids, or vice versa, and so we get referrals coming back the other way also.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, Mark, you've been awesome. Final thoughts, final words of wisdom for the audience on franchising, Senior Care Authority, business ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of wrapping up kind of everything we talked about. I mean, I think I'm super excited about Senior Care Authority. I'm super excited about where I'm at within Senior Care Authority because I think I've seen a lot as a franchisee and the success that we've had here in Cleveland in growing our space. And I'm really excited about the opportunity of taking some of that knowledge to the franchisor level and helping the rest of the country expand their businesses as well. So we've got a great platform and looking forward to taking it to the next level.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for being here, and look forward to meeting you face-to-face soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance.
My pleasure.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.